Welcome to AEW Unrestricted Special Holiday Season Edition. Yeah! I am Aubrey Edwards, along with my co-host, Will Washington. How are you doing, Will? How are you enjoying your holiday season?
Oh, I am doing great. Look, this is my favorite time of year. Ish, I've talked about how Thanksgiving is, but like I am such a sucker for like Christmas music and gifts
You're a
and
Mariah
all of
Carey
that stuff.
boy. Like,
Yeah, that's really it. And but look, she's the queen of Christmas, 19 number one hits. Does your favorite artist have 19 number one hits? Probably not, because only one other artist has 19 or more, and that's the Beatles. But anyway, that said, folks, like this is we talk about being the best and what it takes to be the best, and this here is a best of edition of AEW Unrestricted, and we're going to take a look back at some of our best moments from this year and some of our best interviews, and of course this show wouldn't be possible without Upper Deck and
the best sponsor.
Yes, that is true. And the 2025 AEW SP Game Use set is available now and is the first ever AEW release packed with autographs, tech cards, and real match used relics pulled straight from the ring, including championship gear, event banners, even a one-of-one fork from All in Texas. And you can grab your box at local hobby shops or hit upperdeck.com to find a store near you. And look at this. Like, I just opened this pack here and, talking about match used relics, like there's literal match relics in this. So I've got Claudio. All right, look at this. This is so cool. Look, but we talk about autographs. And again, I've mentioned this once before. These are genuine autographs. These aren't copies. These are actual signatures. I've got Jamie Hayter's signature right here.
Ooh, fancy.
And you can get yours, again, upperdeck.com to find a store near you. Get it at your local hobby shops. There's a shop around the corner for me that has them. And
I mean, it's the holiday season. We talk about like getting gifts and stuff before Hanukkah, before Christmas and all this stuff. But we all know we end up getting those, gift cards at the holidays, and we're trying to find something we can treat ourselves to. So maybe, head over to that hobby shop around the corner, pick yourself up some Upper Deck game used SP cards. They're going to be awesome. They're super cool. They're really nice and awesome. We're very happy with Upper Deck. They're a great sponsor here on Unrestricted. So yeah, Happy New Year, Will.
Yes, thank you. And Happy New Year to you as well. But let's take a look back at some of the big moments and guests from the last 12 months of AEW and AEW Unrestricted.
Right. One of my favorite guests we had on was Christopher Daniels, who retired from in-ring performing at the beginning of the year. Fallen Angel had his final match on AEW Collision January 18th. It was a Texas death match against the king of Texas death match, Hangman Adam Page. And we got to talk to CD all about it just days after his last match.
I feel like there's a pressure that's been taken off, like a weight's been taken off my shoulders, because like for the last maybe 2 years, there was always a stress for me to be prepared, be ready to wrestle when called upon. And even though there wasn't that many opportunities in 2024 for me, in my head, I was still a wrestler. And then, once I was no longer the interim EVP, I thought, okay, well, this will be an opportunity to get back in the ring. And it just turned out that my body thought maybe it's time to cut this out. So, yeah, I mean, it's a change I'm still getting used to, but I think it's going to be a change for the better for me. If it's going to keep me healthy in my twilight years, which I feel like I've been in for like 20 years already. But I'm getting used to it. I'm getting used to it.
One of my favorite things after watching the match itself, which we'll get to, is seeing the reception that you had when you came home and all of the things that your family had set up and all of this. How does your family feel knowing that you're no longer an in-ring competitor?
I think my wife is happy. Like she's seen me come home and be sort of miserable and uncomfortable from, years of bad knees and years of bad neck and years of just wear and tear. And so, I think she's happy in the sense that she knows that that part of my life is behind me. And Yeah, I mean, like the travel is still a thing. Like the being on the road as often as I am is still a thing. But coming home with stitches in my forehead or, limping because of something I did stupid in the ring, those days are done.
It was interesting that I think all of us behind the scenes obviously knew going into it uh, what was coming out of this match, but I think that it hadn't quite hit the fans yet, and the moment it hit the fans was kind of right before it aired, and you could almost see like how had that outpouring felt like that every single fan was suddenly remembering their favorite Christopher Daniels moments and going up and down your career. And I imagine scrolling social media was almost a bit of a reunion of sorts because you kind of are seeing all of these moments from Christopher Daniels' history. What was that moment like going into it?
It's nice to know that the things you've done in your career have sort of affected people. And, you know, so much of our job depends on connecting with the fan base. And so that sort of outpouring after the match aired and after, I sort of let everybody know that that was it for me. Um, that outpouring sort of meant a lot to me. It made me think like, well, this wasn't for nothing. Um, and it's just very cool that people throughout my career have reached out and said, I really appreciate what you do. Thank you for what you've done. Thank you for all the crap you've gone through physically to do what you do. Yeah, it means a lot to me that people come up to me and say, "Hey, I watched you." A lot of them say growing up, so that doesn't make me feel old at all. But yeah, I mean, when people say like I watched you and this match you had with this person really meant a lot to me. This period of time, whether it was Ring of Honor or TNA or the Independents or AEW, it doesn't matter where. It's just the idea that these people invested their time and their efforts to pay attention to what you're doing. It's a good feeling.
And coincidentally, 2025 also marked the end of CD's friend, Curryman. And he had his final in-ring performance as well. He had his
Yes.
final match on the Jericho Cruise in January.
Well, he and I hadn't really been able to share locker rooms very often just because, for one reason or another, like when I was fired from TNA, he came in for a year. He got fired and I came back, and then I think he was working at a Kinko's in Morioka for the last couple of years. So, he'd sort of like taken wrestling had become like sort of the hobby for him. And, I knew that he recognized that the Jericho Cruise was a place where like he could come and conceivably do something special. And yeah, just like I had no idea he was even gonna do like I guess at the end of the match when he came out and he said, this was it for him. It was a pretty cool moment, and I'm glad he got to go out in front of fans that appreciated him, and it was cool.
I love it. I love finally getting to see you guys in the same place. It truly feels like one of those moments where there's certain guys all over in the history of comics and time where you just wish you could see them together and you never got to. And finally, we got to see Curryman and Christopher Daniels together in one place. And yeah, it was beautiful.
And he paid me back the money he owed me, so I mean that was cool.
Oh, like, that's the best.
It's been almost 20 years. So, I mean, I didn't charge him interest. I could have probably retired, but we do for friends. What do you do?
Yeah.
We spent a lot of this year doing more than just AEW Unrestricted interviews. We got to interview a lot of our colleagues for the official book of AEW. This book is All Elite, which was written by Keith Elliott Greenberg, who joined us for an interview here on Unrestricted. AEW has been around 6 years, right?
6 years.
And it's hard to encapsulate in just thinking about it what you can get done in 6 years and how much of a stamp you can make on professional wrestling. And that's what I really think this book did particularly well, is it really puts into perspective like how much professional wrestling history exists in just those 6 years. And
It's so funny you say that, because I was thinking about this today. You know, the concept of the forbidden door, we take that for granted now.
Right.
And think about Tony Khan was the one who was kicking open the forbidden door. And that was not something as North American fans we were accustomed to. Recently, we saw that spectacular women's blood and guts match.
Yes.
This book talks about Thunder Rosa and Dr. Britt Baker, in the ring, shocking people in the midst of the pandemic with that. So think about how far we have evolved just in a few short years in AEW history.
It's wild. And that was one of the ones that I tagged in the book to talk about. Because that match itself, I remember kind of a moment in time, people were so shocked to see it just because of the societal implications of people don't want to see women bleed and whatnot. But AEW has done such a great job of kind of moving past that. And now the women are an equal level, if not more sadistic than the men in some cases. But seeing Britt and Thunder's match together in that lights out match in the pandemic was great. But then also seeing their rematch later in San Antonio where Thunder Rosa won the belt. And it's special to me because I was in the match. So there's a fun little picture there. What page is this? This is page 152. But then also just seeing what it means to people, not only from a representation standpoint, but that match in particular. I completely forgot about this, but Thunder Rosa had hired an entire band of mariachis that were all women. So it was she was basically integrating her culture into this in her hometown, in this amazing moment and what it meant.
Intergender.
Right. Oh my God. It was so good, man. So great.
Yeah. I mean, it just makes you think about how exciting it all was. When AEW premiered, those early years, even during the pandemic, it was so fresh, so new. Unless you were following the indies, most people who were watching, TBS or TNT had not encountered this wide variety of wrestling before.
Well, that was one place I wanted to start because, I remember when we were conducting the initial interviews for this book, I sat down with Kris Harrington and we had a super long conversation to the point of where we kind of had to stop pretty abruptly after we got pretty deep in. But there was a lot of stuff I didn't know in that conversation that ended up coming forth, and we ended up just some new information I got out of that. And that was kind of what I wanted to ask you about was, how did you feel coming across, or I suppose a better way to phrase this question is, what was the most surprising thing about the origins of AEW that you came across as you were gathering the information for this book, listening to these interviews, and talking to people?
Well, first of all, let me just compliment both of you, because I could not have done this book alone. And aside from the great photographers and the art directors who've contributed so much to the aesthetics of this book, I relied on people like you who are real day-to-day insiders conducting a lot of these interviews and uncovering this information. And there was such a comfort level that the talent felt with each of you, that stuff flowed out that, I don't know if I would have been able to get that by myself. It's funny, I bought into the myth that AEW would not have existed except for All In. Mm-hmm. I should have scrutinized it a little more, but the popular narrative is All In took place in 2018. Tony Khan was sitting there in the audience and he goes, "I'm going to start a wrestling company." The reality is Tony Khan knew what it took to start a wrestling company and knew you don't start one up in 6 months. Yeah. So by the time All In took place, Kris Harrington, who you previously mentioned, was already on the payroll as AEW's first employee, coming up with a strategy that had to make Tony Khan's lifelong vision work.
Well, Kris Harrington may have been employee number one at AEW. The roster quickly grew from there, and we welcomed a bunch of new talent to the AEW family in 2025. One of our biggest and best roster growths of the year. We'll revisit some of those new faces coming up here on AEW Unrestricted after the break.
This is AEW Unrestricted, and this is our best of 2025, and it continues with a look at some of the talent who got their all-elite graphic on social media this year. We had Mina Shirakawa, we had Megan Bain, Ace Austin, and Speedball Mike Bailey, who talked to us not long after making his AEW debut official, and that was back in March, defeating Beast Mortos.
It was awesome because, like, I got to be in the ring. Funny story about that in a second. I was in the ring, and I had no idea what your music was going to sound like. So I'm just kind of watching the Tron and like waiting for that pop that's inevitably going to happen. And then I'm looking at it, and out like by the left side, kind of like stage right, there's someone with a sign that says Speedball is all elite. And that's always the fun part, right? Like when fans follow along and are guessing what's going to happen. Because your first match was Beast Mortos versus TBD. And like that morning, Paul Turner's doing ref assignments. He's like, hey, is there anything you're interested in doing? I'm like, I would like to do the Beast Mortos match. Wink. And he goes, oh, okay. Because, I mean, you and Beast work all the time together. I'm like, yeah, I would love to do the Beast Mortos match. Wink. He's like, oh, okay, cool. And yeah, it was so awesome. I was really happy I got to be there. So on that topic, what was it like coming out and already seeing signs for you and wrestling Beast? Because I feel like that was a perfect first opponent.
It was. It's funny. I remember when I was a child, when Y2J first happened, right? And it wasn't even a thing. And there were so many signs in the crowd for Chris Jericho when he made his debut. And 10-year-old me was like, how is this possible? How could these people possibly have known? Right? But then seeing the same thing and like the amount of anticipation. And they announced the match yesterday, right? They announced wild card in this tournament, this international tournament, country TBD and opponent for Mortos TBD. And a lot of people were like, I think this might be Speedball. And
yeah.
I had the same reaction. I kind of watched it. They released the graphic when I was at the airport in LA waiting for my connection to go to Fresno. And I was like, I think this might be me. I was texting a couple of people like, I hope this is me. And I really did because, so I've wrestled Beast Mortos in different iterations several times. This is my first time wrestling the Beast Mortos, but I've wrestled two other guys that look and feel a lot the same, including my very first match when I first went to Mexico in AAA, which was in 2015, which is just under 10 years ago, because I think that was October. But he was, under a different name, part of my first ever match there, which was like, I didn't spend that much time. I spent 2 months in Mexico and went back another time after that. But that was my first like extended wrestling trip where I really made the crossover into, I mark that trip as the moment where I became a professional wrestler full time, because I had recently quit my last full-time job and was officially doing pro wrestling for a living at that point. And it was a weird full circle moment to get to have another debut against Beast Mortos.
Well, a big part of the debut and part of what's really appealed to fans has been the music. I had been talking with Mikey Ruckus for weeks leading into it and talking about, how the theme was going to come along. And I know you guys have been in contact about the whole thing and kind of the vibe you were looking for and going for a bit of an 80s hip hop vibe. A lot of fans are very attached to you and Brass Monkey. We hear that all the time. And I thought for this to have kind of to have that same feel, but at the same time, give you a bit of give it its own unique feel that's unique to you. I think it's one of the most unique themes on the roster. And I think it was perfect timing for it. How did you feel about the music the first time you heard it?
So I absolutely love it. I mean, I have the same relationship with Sway Archer, who makes all my gear and costumes. As I just tell him, hey, make me a new set. And he's like, got it. I have an idea, and I'm like, awesome, let's roll with it. Mikey Ruckus, like, he kind of knew what he wanted, I think. The first message he said, hey, I have this vision for this kind of Street Fighter 80s hip-hop kind of thing. And I was like, great. If you see it, if it's in your mind, if you look at Speedball My Bailey and like, I think this would fit perfectly, then there's no way I'm going to, like, argue at all or like, pitch anything. He's the man. His theme songs are always great. And if he has a specific vision, then of course we're running with it. And the main thing I wanted was something different. I want something unique. That's why I liked Brass Monkey as a theme song. More than I like the song, I like that it does not sound like a professional wrestling theme song at all.
Yes.
You would not expect it. You would not see it. The timing is all wrong from what you would expect, which is how I want people to feel about my wrestling as well. So I kind of want that to be mirrored before the match starts. My wrestling is weird. It's different. It's unconventional by design. You know, it's probably grown more conventional over time, but still, I always like that part of Brass Monkey, and I feel like this really does the same thing. It sounds different. It sets a different vibe for the match.
And it really didn't take Speedball long to team up with another new AEW signee, one of my favorite people, the Jet, Kevin Knight, who got his All Elite graphic also in late March.
Man, it honestly feels surreal. It feels surreal. It feels like things just magically happen. Like the universe just conspired for me to come in on a Saturday and team up with Will on the Wednesday, and then all of a sudden against them at a pay-per-view that Sunday. So it's like it all was written. You know what I mean?
It was so good because I remember, just peek behind the curtain, you were there in Fresno, and I literally walk up to you. I'm like, hey, do you work here yet? You're like, I don't know. We're still talking. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, let me know when it happens. And I'm just so excited it finally friggin' happened. It's like, you're such a good fit for our locker room. Not only are you just like such a hardworking guy, you have a great wrestling style, you have this great charisma, you're a wonderful person, which I always like having like happy, nice people backstage. Cause like, you know, you need those good locker room guys. So it's pretty great.
You're like yourself. You know, you ref my first few matches there, so I always felt comfortable.
Oh,
you
yeah.
were in there with the Sad Dynasty, so you know,
hell yeah.
It was dope. It was dope.
So it was funny, like a little peek behind the curtain again for Dynasty. I had no idea I had your match until about 10 minutes beforehand.
Oh, and you're just running through the hall. I'm watching you run through the hall. You're like, I've got first match. And you're like,
I needed to fix my lipstick, man.
Yeah.
I sat in the makeup chair. I was like, I need you to fix my lipstick. I have first match. And Salem looks at the clock and goes, that's in 10 minutes. I'm like, yeah, no, we got to go. Because it was supposed to be Stefan, but he was doing the Max Caster match during the pre-show. And I'm like, oh, no, I got Kevin. And it's like, Will Ospreay I've worked with plenty of times. And now I've worked with plenty of times. So this is kind of one of those, like when you're thrown a match last minute, it's the best case scenario where you have two people who, you know, both of their movesets, you know, they're going to work really well together. They're going to have great chemistry and it just sort of works. And what a hell of a way to start a pay-per-view, right?
Right. It was electric in there to say the least.
Very. What was your response like when you found out that you were going to be wrestling Ospreay on pay-per-view? Literally like 2 weeks after you joined AEW.
1 week.
It was a rib. I thought it was a rib, to be honest. I was like, why you guys? I know I'm the new guy here. You know what I mean? Why am I? If you guys want to, you know, I'm a very playful guy. You guys don't have to joke with me in that type of way. So I didn't believe it until I saw the graphic during the Dynamite. I was like, oh, okay, this is actually real. They're not joking with me. So it was so I was experiencing it at the same time the audience was. So it was dope.
And of course, you know, this came a week after you having your All Elite match with Jay White on Collision. So again, it was just like a crazy surreal week. It was like you really got the audience to understand who you are and what you bring to the table almost immediately. And then it turned out Jay White suffered an unfortunate injury in that match. And then Jay White then goes on to he is then removed from the Owen Hart Foundation Cup tournament, and you're in. And it's like, yeah, it's crazy. What was that first night like that the All Elite graphic was officially official?
I remember the moment right before my music hit. Tony came and said, "Hey, we're gonna announce your All Elite right after the match." I was like, "What? Really?" because you know he never really discussed that with me, so I was very much shocked as well. So I was like, "Well, we're here now." So it was a very much surreal moment just when I saw the response online. It was like, "Oh man!" Like the whole time I've been wrestling, All Elite has been a thing as well. So I remember seeing Aubrey get her graphic. I remember you getting your graphic, Will. So to see me being tweeted out by Tony Khan, it was like a very surreal moment. I was like, wow, I really am amongst greatness.
And another AEW newcomer who made a huge impact from the moment she joined back in May, it's the Toxic Spider, Thekla.
I think my first contact with wrestling was when I was 18 or 19. Mm-hmm. I kind of almost accidentally ran into a show called Rock and Roll Wrestling Bash. And at that time, I was especially interested in the rock and roll part, and the wrestling part was very new to me. And they had in one of my favorite music venues back in Vienna, they put up a little ring in front of 1,000, 2,000 people or something, and they had a crust punk band play in the back and just like ripping it. And in the middle of the ring, you had a bunch of crazy characters, like Boris the Butcher and like Crazy Clown and shit like that, you know. Ooh. And it's like, especially Boris the Butcher really made an impression on me because he had a weapon, and his weapon was a chicken he had probably bought at the shop in like a dead with no feathers. He was just beating his opponent with this dead animal, and we were like, whoa.
That is the most punk rock thing I've ever heard.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking, because we were all up, about punk rock stuff, you know. So that guy Boris the Butcher beating his opponent with a chicken was the most punk rock thing I'd seen to date. And then the chicken, like, it was like in parts everywhere in the crowd, you know, because the crowd was standing right by the ring. We could just like hit the ring like that. It was so close, you know. It was really cool. Unlike TV shows, right? We were really close to the action, and it was blood everywhere, and we're like, oh, what is this? We need to get more of that. And then we started to like look into what else Vienna had to offer. And I'll tell you, it's not a lot. So when I decided, okay, I want to give this a try because I think I might be punk rock enough for this shit.
And from new AEW talent, we turn to new champions in 2025. We're going to revisit a couple of our faves coming up next on AEW Unrestricted on our Best of 2025 episode. Stay tuned for after the break.
Welcome back to AEW Unrestricted. You know, we saw many AEW titles change hands in 2025. We started the year with the AEW World Championship locked away in a briefcase under the protection of Marina Shafir at the instruction of the champ, Jon Moxley. And by November, Samoa Joe had secured his second reign as AEW World Champion, and Timeless Toni Storm held the World Women's Championship earlier this year. But I think no one was more surprised than Toni herself when Kris Statlander defeated Toni, Thekla, and Jamie Hayter in a four-way at All Out to pick up her first reign as AEW Women's World Champion. And we talked to Kris on the eve of All Out.
When it comes to me and titles and pay-per-views, I've had a lot of some of those poetic moments because I lost my title at a Full Gear in a triple threat match, and then I didn't challenge again for it until Full Gear the following year. And that was a singles match, and I failed. But then I failed the world title in a singles match, and now I'm in a multi-man match at All Out, the same pay-per-view. So maybe I'll have reverse odds this time. Weird little things.
Weird little things, but I mean, you have to kind of keep them in mind, right? And this time, like, you're working with some people that you are very, very familiar with. I know you've had a couple matches recently with Thekla, even though she's still very new to AEW. We've seen her quite frequently a lot of these multi-person matches. Jamie Hayter, who you have experience with because you she defeated you in the women's Owen Hart tourney semifinal last April. And then Toni Storm, who, you know, is an amazing individual and has been a great steward of our division. But at the same time, you know, anytime I think of our women's roster, Kris Statlander is one of the first names that comes to my mind, because while you may not have had that championship, you are such an epitome of the hard work that we see week in and week out in the locker room. So knowing that you're facing these three really, really strong competitors in the matches, what is sort of your mindset going into it and facing all three of these ladies at the same time?
Well, it's sort of a tricky thing because I do have both. I have experience against Thekla in multiple matches, but I have a size advantage over her. Jamie, she did beat me in the one time we've ever had a singles match against each other, but back before leading up to that last title match that I had, I beat her in a handicap match. And then Toni Storm, I've never had a singles match with her. I've had a triple threat with her, the gauntlet matches, tag matches with her. But in that triple threat with her, I pinned her. I have a win over her. So I kind of see multi-man matches as tricky as they can be, as chaotic as they can be. I see them as an opportunity to like really take advantage of something that you don't necessarily see there in a standard one-on-one match. So I feel I'm excited. I love a multi-man. I love the chaosness. So I'm very much so looking forward to it.
You've called this a reformation year. What's been the biggest change in your approach mentally or physically since 2024?
It's not even necessarily since 2024, but since 2019, honestly. I feel like so much of my experience in AEW has been surrounding other people and not necessarily being like me watching over everybody else, but just always having people by my side no matter what. And most of 2024 and the majority of 2025 has been me just kind of trying to figure out the ropes on my own and just be my own wrestler. And I don't know where I stand with obviously most of the roster. I understand why they have their feelings that they do about me. However, sometimes I think it's good to keep people at an arm's length, especially with all these other situations going on. I think I do need this opportunity to just be on my own, and that's why I say it's a reformation year, because I don't really know where I stand with a lot of things, my views, my morals, my friendships. So I just kind of have to I have to see where wrestling brings me and not try and push it somewhere that it's not willing to go.
And while the AEW Women's World Championship changed hands a few times in 2025, the TBS Championship did not. Mercedes Moné managed to hang on to it all year despite some great challenges. We also saw the TNT Championship change hands a couple of times. We started the year with Daniel Garcia as champion, and Adam Cole defeated Daniel at Dynasty to become the TNT champ, but then had to vacate the title due to injury on the night of All In, which allowed Dustin Rhodes to win the title at All In and win that four-way. But then he was defeated by Kyle Fletcher in a Chicago street fight in July on Collision. And then finally, at Full Gear in November, Mark Briscoe got his hands on the gold. He beat Kyle Fletcher to become the TNT champion, and he got that absolutely gorgeous belt that we all love. It's excellent belt. It's my favorite TNT championship design. But we talked to Mark before he became champ, but just after he welcomed his 9th child.
Yep, the big number 9, the real Nueve.
The real Nueve.
How's it been? How's it been adjusting to having effectively an 11th person at home?
Yeah, and I tell you, he showed up right before the school year started. So right when everything's getting a little crazy. We got a middle school hockey player and a high school hockey player, field hockey that is. Yep, and school started up. He got here on the 22nd of August. I believe school started the 28th of August. And so yeah, it's been hectic, but it's been great, man. He's a good boy, good strong boy. Yep, he's doing good. The main thing that we got to be concerned with is Baby J, because he's 1. I mean, he's 1.5,
right?
And he doesn't quite understand that Baby Mac, the new baby, is not as sturdy as his other brothers. So that's the main difficulty at this point.
I love the use of the word sturdy when describing a child, because it makes absolute sense.
Oh yeah.
Like the thing that is I think needs to be said is that like having kids in this industry, I don't have kids, but I see all of my friends who do. And I'm just like, how do you function with, being a present parent at home, but also being able to work out, eat right, train, do all the things you need to do to be an excellent performer. And then you do it to like an exponential level because you're a father, but you're a present father. Like you're there for your kids when you're at home, which I commend you for because not everyone is that person. And I'm like, I don't know how you do it. Do you drink coffee?
Oh my goodness. I have one in my hand.
There we go.
As we speak. Yep. Pretty nonstop. Yep.
Well,
And you got to follow it up in the evening with the red wine. That's the key.
Get the upper and the downer.
Yeah, it's perfect balance. Do you feel like, doing this for the 9th time now, does it feel like clockwork at this point, or do you feel like you're still always learning something new?
Definitely learning this about this new, this new little guy. Like he changes the whole dynamic because he's gonna have a relationship and he's building a relationship with all 8 of his siblings. So that's a bunch of different brand new relationships. And so yeah, I wouldn't necessarily say learning new stuff. And I tell you, the biggest and most helpful thing is that we had the 3 girls, 1, 2, and 3. So they're the 3 oldest. So they're like little mini mommies, little built-in babysitters. So they're so helpful.
Wonderful. I mean, speaking of relationships, I want to talk and big groups. I want to talk about the conglomeration. How's that for a segue?
That was nice.
Right? Yes. Gonna pat myself on the back for that one. I love your group. And every time that you guys are on screen, I know that magic's going to happen. Like, not only are we going to get an incredible Mark Briscoe yelling at the camera promo, and I'm going to learn a new word, but like your guys' chemistry is off the charts. How did this group come together? And how do you guys how do you function together? Because it's so many different personalities.
Ooh, and I want to add to this story, by the way, as you tell it, because I feel like there's a...
Will was in the room.
I was. Yes.
Instrumental.
I was hoping like one day I would get to tell this story, and so like
okay.
I'm. But go on. I want to make sure that we get every piece told.
Yep. So it was myself, Kyle O'Reilly, and Orange Cassidy in a 6-man tag team. One of the first all-star 6-man, 8-mans, because that's kind of become a pretty recurring theme in AEW. It was one of the first ones. It was me, O'Reilly, and Orange Cassidy facing off.
Roderick Strong, Konosuke Takeshita, and Kyle Fletcher. Yes.
Yep. There you go. Yep. And Willow was palling around with Orange at the time, so she was in there with us, and she had some business that evening as well. So the 4 of us, we cut a promo together, and I said, this is the word of the day. I said, look at all these individuals that we have lined up here. The word of the day is conglomeration, because this is one hell of a conglomeration of individuals. And then so it ended up being a pre-tape, and I don't know if it was too long or something, but we did another one, and I didn't say that line again. And my good friend Will said, Mark, I really like the word of the day is conglomeration, and what a conglomeration of people. So we ended up doing it again with that in there, and then the rest is history.
Yeah, the best part too was that, right, I remember we had we just did a run through of it first just to kind of get all the beats down, because the one thing people don't know about these conglomeration promos, and the thing I appreciate about them more than anything, is that the thing that everybody loves is that Mark Briscoe just kind of brings it, right, and that you're always going to get this high energy, but like Mark really just kind of freestyles these things. You don't really there's never really a big like a script to it. It's really like, okay, just make sure you hit these points, but otherwise just go. And so when we did the initial run through, just as we were kind of figuring things out, you had said, just the word of the day is conglomeration. But then when we taped it, you didn't say that part. And then we go back to rewatch it, and Clark happens to notice, I think like the light had slipped into the shot or something like that, so we had to redo it. And just as we're about to redo it, I was like, hey, that line you said about the word of the day, like, throw that back in there. And then we redid it, and sure enough, it came out perfectly. And I remember like a week later, Tony, we're sitting in creative, and Tony was like, what was the thing Mark said last week? Called it the conglomeration. I think that's what it is. It's the conglomeration. And
man.
There it is.
Yep. And it's just we just budge, you know what I mean? 2 rules. You know what I mean? Can't be pardon my French. Well, I'll just spell it. SHIT. Can't be one of them. Can't be a shithead. I said it. I ended up saying it.
It's unrestricted. You're fine.
And you got to be down to conglomerate. So there's 2 rules. Very simple. And, you know, we just buddies. We like to have fun. We don't like to stress about too much, but we can all get down at the highest of the, you know what I mean, the highest of the totem pole. We can get down in the ring. And that's kind of what brings us all together. That in the conglomeratory, you know, is one of the main conglomeratory factors. But we are a hell of a group.
Thank you so much for listening. Happy New Year, happy holidays, whatever it is you choose to celebrate, whether it's with friends, family, or just straight up food. We love you all. Thank you so much for listening. It's been a fantastic 2025 for AEW and AEW Unrestricted. And as Tony Khan always says it, this is the best year we've ever had for AEW. I'm so looking forward to what the next year brings. I know Upper Deck's going to keep bringing us some cards because they are our primary sponsor here at AEW Unrestricted. 2025 AEW SP game used set is available now. First ever AEW release packed with autographs, tech cards, real match used relics pulled straight from the ring, championship gear, event banners, t-shirts, pieces of chair, even the one-of-one fork from All In Texas. You can grab your box at a local hobby shop. Hit upperdeck.com to learn more. You can also listen to and follow this podcast, AEW Unrestricted, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all of the fun little podcast apps. You can check out the video versions on our YouTube channel at AEW Unrestricted. Hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode. And if you're not already an AEW insider, you can get access to ticket pre-sales, special merchandise offers, and more straight to your inbox. Sign up today, AEWTIX.com. And of course, watch where all the magic happens. AEW Dynamite TBS, Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. streaming on Max. AEW Collision live every Saturday on TNT, also on Max. ROH streams Thursdays on Honor Club. I'm Aubrey Edwards. He's Will Washington. This has been another amazing year of AEW Unrestricted. Thank you so much for listening to this amazing podcast and supporting AEW. Peace out, everybody. Happy holidays.